October 2006, a cold afternoon at Stamford Bridge. It was the first minute of the game and the crowd went silent. Not a goal, assist of any crazy skill. It was a simple pass that rolled into the box. An easy job for Petr Cech, but instead this moment nearly killed him.
Keeper Doyle, sailing all the way through, giving the opposite keeper.
However, he went on to be one of the greatest goalkeepers to ever played in the Premier League, with many records that still stand today. In the next 20 minutes, I am going to show how this moment thrived him to greatness. October 14th, 2006. A quiet afternoon in Reading. Chelsea were the champions of England. Petr Cech was the best goalkeeper in the world, and nothing, absolutely nothing, looked like it could go wrong. 15 seconds after kickoff, that illusion ended. A loose ball rolled into the box. Cech did what he'd done 1,000 times before, sprinted forward, fearless, eyes fixed on the ball. But Stephen Hunt, the Reading striker, didn't pull back. Then came the sound, a crack so loud it silenced the entire stadium. Hunt's knee smashed directly into Cech's skull. He fell, tried to move, then collapsed again. At first, nobody realised what had happened. Then panic spread. The referee waved frantically for help. Teammates froze. Cech was motionless, pale, gone. An ambulance roared through the tunnel, sirens cutting through the silence. At Royal Berkshire Hospital, the doctors found a depressed skull fracture, a broken piece of bone pressing against his brain. They said if the collision had been an inch closer, he would have died on the pitch. That night, emergency surgeons drilled into his skull and placed a metal plate to keep him alive. When he woke up, he couldn't speak, couldn't move, couldn't remember the game. For days, doctors asked the same question: do you know what happened? And every time, the answer was the same: no. He only remembered leaving the dressing room, nothing else. It's almost cruel how life strikes at its peak, because just before that collision, Petr Cech wasn't just good, he was untouchable. In his debut Premier League season, he kept 24 clean sheets, a record that still stands today, and conceded just 15 goals all season. Chelsea won their first title in 50 years. Mourinho called him the Wall. England called him unbeatable. By 2006, he was Chelsea's foundation, their calm in chaos, the quiet heart of a ruthless machine. 7 games into the new season, he had already conceded just 3 goals. Then came that day in Reading. 15 seconds, 1 challenge, everything shattered. But to understand the weight of that injury, you have to understand the man before it. Before the helmet, there was a skinny kid from Plzeň who didn't even want to be a goalkeeper. Born in 1982, in a town where dreams usually ended at factory doors, young Petr wanted to score goals, not stop them. Until fate intervened twice. 2 broken legs, 2 cruel reminders that his dream was over before it began. He later said, "I knew the only option left was to stay in goal, which turned out not to be so bad." From there, something switched. He stopped chasing goals and started defending them like a man possessed. At 17, he became the youngest starting goalkeeper in the Czech First League. Then Sparta Prague. Then Rennes. And everywhere he went, he broke records, clean sheets, saves, and reactions that felt superhuman. His coaches couldn't stop talking about him. He's not normal. He sees danger before it happens. At 19, he led the Czech under-21s to the European Championship final. He saved 3 consecutive penalties in the shootout against France and won Player of the Tournament. From that day, everyone knew this wasn't just talent, it was destiny in gloves. By 2004, Chelsea came calling. £7 million, the most expensive goalkeeper signing in their history. And for the next 2 years, Petr Cech made the impossible look routine. By the summer of 2006, he was untouchable. Every dive, every cross, every fingertip save. He made the impossible seem predictable. To fans, he wasn't a player anymore. He was peace of mind in gloves. And yet, destiny was waiting 15 seconds into that October afternoon. After 10 days, he went home, stitched, scarred, but smiling weakly. He thought he'd survived the worst, but he hadn't, because the real battle was just beginning. While the doctors were worrying about his health, he was already thinking about returning to the pitch. Then came the news. The doctors told him, if you dive again the wrong way, it could kill you. For a man whose life depended on diving, that was like telling him not to breathe. He became afraid, not just for his career, but also for his identity. I mean, can he really be called a goalkeeper if he can't dive? But Petr Cech wasn't thinking about quitting. He was planning his comeback. 3 months later, he felt he was ready to return to the game. The doctors advised against it. They even advised him to at least wait until the next season, because a second impact could cause brain swelling and put his life in danger. But he wasn't ready to listen. In his own words, "Don't tell me what I can't do. Instead, tell me what I can do." Against all odds, he stepped back onto a football pitch, but wearing a black protective helmet that would eventually become so iconic that most of his fans would not even recognize him without it. He was ready for his comeback. But this comeback wasn't a fairy tale, because he wasn't just facing opponents now, he was fighting his own body, his own fear. Cech finally returned to football, but it didn't feel like a comeback. It felt like walking into a different world, one where every move could kill him. The fact is, after the surgery, the doctor's warnings continued to echo in his mind every time he trained. No traditional dives, no more quick lunges. He couldn't take risks. Cech was known for throwing himself at the ball, but this was now his biggest threat. He was forced to wear a black protective helmet to shield the metal plate in his skull. It was a strange, heavy, and uncomfortable experience. He admitted that he could not hear properly or even feel the breeze on his hair. At first, even his teammates struggled to look at him the same way, because the helmet wasn't just protection, it was a reminder of how fragile he'd become. And every time he hit the ground, he didn't just feel the impact, he felt fear. Training became psychological warfare. He had to relearn everything, from how he positioned his body to how he fell. Doctors and specialists designed drills to reduce strain on his head. He focused on balance, timing, and footwork, rather than relying on reflex dives. He spent hours studying video footage, this time not just of opponents, but of himself before the injury. Soon, he realized something that changed his entire game. If he couldn't react faster than a shot, he had to anticipate it before it came. If he couldn't dive as much, then he needed to be standing in the right place before the ball even left the striker's foot. Doctors said he'd never play the same again, and he never did, because what they didn't realize was that he was about to reinvent goalkeeping forever. If you watched Petr Cech before the injury, you'd remember the reflexes, lightning quick, fearless, explosive. He didn't react, he anticipated. He didn't think, he dived. Every save looked like instinct made human. But after the skull fracture, instinct became dangerous. Every dive, every collision carried a new cost. And so, at Chelsea's Cobham training ground, the wall that once defined an era began again, not as a champion, but as a student. Cech knew he couldn't be the same goalkeeper again. So instead of fighting his limitation, he studied it. If his body couldn't move faster, then his mind would have to. He started living inside the analysis room. Hours spent watching videos, not of himself, but of strikers. He studied the smallest tells, the angle of a knee before a shot, the lean of a shoulder, the shift in balance that revealed where the ball would go. He memorized patterns. If he couldn't react faster than the shot, he'd predict it before it came. He changed everything about his training. No more reckless dives, no unnecessary risks. He refined positioning, timing, and balance to surgical precision. He said later, "I stopped trying to be faster than the shot. I tried to be smarter than it." At first, it looked mechanical, but soon it became beautiful. Goalkeeping turned into geometry. Every step, every shift, a calculated answer to an invisible equation. By 2012, this evolution reached its masterpiece, the Champions League final against Bayern Munich. Chelsea were under siege. Bayern had 43 shots, Cech saved 40, but his most iconic moment came in the penalty shootout. Not because of luck, but because of psychology. After the match, Bayern's Mario Gomez revealed a chilling detail. Cech came to me and said, "Why did you change your mind?" I asked what he meant. He said, "You wanted to go left, but at the last second, you changed your mind and went right." He was absolutely correct. If I hadn't changed, he would have saved it. Cech didn't just study goalkeeping, he studied human nature. That night in Munich, he wasn't just the man between the posts, he was inside the striker's head. And when Chelsea lifted their first ever Champions League trophy, it wasn't just redemption for the club, it was validation for a man who turned survival into science. By now, Petr Cech had survived the unthinkable, but the battle wasn't over. Because coming back from injury is one thing, staying at the top year after year with a skull that could shatter again, that's something else entirely. He had proven that fear couldn't stop him. Now he had to prove that time wouldn't either. Surviving showed he was brave, one journalist wrote, but staying great showed he was immortal. The next challenge wasn't physical anymore, it was existential. Could he keep evolving faster than the game itself? January 2007, Chelsea versus Liverpool. When Petr Cech finally walked back onto a football pitch, he wasn't the same man who terrified strikers across England. The helmet made him look fearless, but inside, he was still haunted by that collision. Because here's the truth, you can heal bones, but how do you convince your mind you're safe again? Fans rose in applause, teammates clapped him on the back, even rival supporters wished him well. But football doesn't pity anyone. Just 10 minutes in, a deflected shot rolled past him and into the net. Liverpool 1-0. By full time, 2-0. To most people, it was just another defeat. To Cech, it was confirmation of his deepest fear that he wasn't the same anymore. Even Jose Mourinho admitted later, you could see the hesitation, not weakness, fear. And fear doesn't belong in goal. But Cech didn't hide from it. He faced it the only way he knew how, through obsession. After that game, he began to study everything. Every pass, every deflection, every mistake. He played the match in his head before it even began. He stopped relying on instinct and started relying on control. Control of his thoughts, his timing, his angles, his emotions. And slowly, the old Cech began to reappear. Only this time, he was sharper, because he understood fear now and how to live with it. From the second game after his return, something clicked. He went 810 minutes without conceding a goal. That's over 9 matches of perfection. That same month, he won the Premier League Player of the Month, the first goalkeeper in 7 years to do so. By the end of the season, despite missing 3 months, he had 14 clean sheets in just 24 games, the best ratio in the league. Chelsea lost only once in the 24 matches he played after coming back. This wasn't luck, it was discipline. It was the mind of a man who'd seen death and decided he wasn't done yet. The following season, the transformation was complete. He recorded 25 clean sheets across all competitions. Chelsea clawed their way back into the title race, fueled by his quiet dominance. And in the FA Cup final, he wrote the final act of his comeback. In extra time, a penalty was awarded. Cech guessed right, dropped low, and blocked the shot with his foot. Chelsea won. He didn't roar, he didn't celebrate wildly. He just stood up, calm, unshaken, as if he already knew the outcome. He had learned to weaponize silence. While others played the game with passion, he played it with psychology. He had turned fear into foresight. But success breeds its own prison. Because once you overcome the impossible, people expect you to do it again. Cech had proved he could come back from near death. Now, he had to prove he could stay at the top. What if this is the one? Yet he never flinched. He simply adjusted his gloves, pulled the strap on his helmet tight, and stood tall, like a man who had made peace with the fear inside him. He had survived the trauma. Now came the harder part, outlasting time itself. By the time Petr Cech returned to full strength, his battle was no longer about survival. It was about staying perfect in a world waiting for him to fail. Fear had once been his enemy. Now, the expectation was. Every save was expected. Every goal conceded was magnified. And yet, he thrived in that impossible standard. Not by being louder, but by being relentless. From 2004 to 2015, Cech built a wall that defied time. He kept 228 clean sheets for Chelsea, 162 in the Premier League alone. No goalkeeper in history had ever done that for one club. When he eventually moved to Arsenal, people said he was finished. He answered with 54 more clean sheets, 40 of them in the league, bringing his total to 202 Premier League clean sheets. A record that still stands untouched. Between 2004 and 2006, Chelsea conceded only 37 goals across 2 full seasons. That's not a defence, that's a mathematical impossibility. In 2004-05 alone, Cech recorded 24 clean sheets and conceded just 15 goals in 38 games. At one point, he went 1,025 minutes without conceding. Commentators joked the only way to score past Cech is in training, but behind the humour was truth. Football had never seen anything like him. That 2-year run remains the greatest defensive period the Premier League has ever known. May 19, 2012, the Allianz Arena, Munich, the Champions League final, Chelsea versus Bayern Munich. Bayern were at home, the favourites. Chelsea were battered, exhausted, missing key players, but Cech stood between them and humiliation. For 80 minutes, Bayern threw everything they had. Cech saved everything he could, until the 83rd minute Thomas Müller finally broke through. 1-0, Bayern ahead. Chelsea were seconds from heartbreak. Then, in the 88th minute, Drogba rose for a corner. Goal. 1-1. Extra time. But fate wasn't done. Drogba, the hero, fouled Franck Ribéry in the box. Penalty to Bayern. Arjen Robben stepped up, and Cech, the man who'd once been told diving could kill him, dived again. He saved it. The game went to penalties, and what happened next became football folklore. He guessed right on every Bayern penalty. Saved Olic, saved Schweinsteiger, and when Drogba scored the final kick, Cech dropped to his knees, helmet glistening under the Munich lights. The man who wasn't supposed to play football again had just conquered Europe. After the match, Drogba said, "When I stepped up for the penalty, I didn't do it for myself. I did it for Cech, because without him, we wouldn't be here tonight." It was Chelsea's trophy, but it was Cech's miracle. In the years that followed, Cech kept adding medals. 4 Premier Leagues, 5 FA Cups, 3 League Cups, 4 Community Shields, a Europa League, and that one, shining Champions League. He was named the world's best goalkeeper, the UEFA Goalkeeper of the Year multiple times, and Czech Footballer of the Year 7 times. He became the most capped player in his nation's history, with 124 appearances. He had won everything, but even walls crumble with time. And as the years passed, the same calm that once steadied his defenders began to steady his decision to walk away. When he finally hung up his gloves, he didn't fade, he evolved. Because the man who once redefined goalkeeping was about to redefine football itself. When Cech fell in 2006, football woke up. Before Cech's injury, goalkeepers were treated like warriors made of steel, brave and immune to harm. That one collision forced the sport to take a hard look at itself. Because if a single knee could end the life of the best goalkeeper in the world, how safe was anyone else? Cech's injury sparked a revolution. Mourinho went on a rampage, speaking out about the limited safety protocols and the lengthy time it takes for ambulances to reach stadiums. It was such a media storm that Arsene Wenger also supported him, speaking against the FA. Within months, FIFA and Premier League medical boards reviewed the rulebooks, increasing the number of paramedics needed per game and the number of ambulances to be on standby. They also mandated CPR training for all physios across the country. His injury didn't just almost take his life, it changed football rules forever. Most players would have retired after what he went through, but he didn't. He returned 3 months after surgery with a metal plate in his skull and a helmet protecting his head, and he never took the helmet off again. For the next 14 years, it became a part of his identity, a reminder of what he'd survived and what he refused to surrender. But the best part is that he didn't just recover, he evolved. He turned physical limitation into tactical brilliance and made mental strength his superpower. And in doing so, he gave every injured athlete on earth a reason to believe that broken doesn't mean finished. When he finally hung up his gloves, Cech didn't step away from football, he took one step above. He became technical and performance advisor at Chelsea, guiding the very generation that grew up idolising him. Young goalkeepers would visit Cobham and say, "If Cech says it, I'll do it." He wasn't just coaching reflexes anymore, he was teaching philosophy, how to think, how to endure, how to win without losing yourself. Even after leaving his role at Chelsea in 2022, he continued to mentor goalkeepers, advise clubs, and consult on goalkeeper safety designs. Helmet companies redesigned protection standards with his input. Premier League academies began teaching concussion awareness, using his case as the model. He had gone from patient to pioneer. Because here's the truth, legacy is beyond your trophy cabinet. It's the footprint you leave behind when your time is done. Petr Cech left an unforgettable legacy. He taught that football is about courage, not ignoring fear. It's about walking onto the pitch with anxiety and still performing well. He showed that mental resilience will always outlast physical strength. And that adaptation isn't a weakness, it's the ultimate skill. He was told not to return, yet he returned stronger than ever, and that's what makes his story eternal. Not the saves, not the records, but the message written between them that limits don't end greatness, they define it.